Good evening, everybody. Welcome to CW Live. My name's Chris Webb, Head of Communications at the CW. Delighted to have with me tonight our General Secretary, Dave Ward. Evening, Dave. Yeah. Okay. Well, I had to mute Dave because we got some mic problems, but good evening, Dave.
Good evening.
You're right now. It seems to be all right. And we've got our Deputy General Secretary, Postal, Terry Pullinger. Good evening, Terry.
Yeah, watcher. You all right?
Yeah, really good. And welcome to the thousands of you already piling in. So I think you don't really need much of an introduction. You know what the session is about. Ballot papers in our second ballot in Royal Mail Group will be landing at your home addresses from tomorrow. So you know it's a massive moment. You know we've got to get the vote out. This is a live Q&A with Dave and Terry where they're going to talk through just what's at stake, why you need to vote yes when you get home. We want to say before we even start the session, we're so proud of you, that massive ballot result just last week, and then the next day Royal Mail come out with a raft of attacks on your terms and conditions, and with no hesitation the union enacted a second ballot, and you stood up to that challenge. Phenomenal amount of gate meetings yesterday, absolutely inspiring, which no doubt would have sent a message to the company. But what will also send a message to the company is the thousands of you online tonight. So if you're online, thank you, but tag your colleagues, share with your friends. Let's get absolutely thousands and thousands of CW members online with us tonight. So whilst we're going to hear from Dave and then Terry, and then we're going to get your questions. Let us know where you're watching from. Let us know you're back in the union. Let us know you're still voting yes, and I'll get the best of those up on screen. Whilst you do that, I'm going to hand over to open the session to our General Secretary, Dave Ward. And once Dave's spoken, we'll hand over to Terry, and then we're going to go straight into your questions. So Dave, I could hand over to you first, buddy.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight, and once again, a great thanks for all the work you've done to deliver such a massive yes vote and a great turnout only a couple of weeks back. And we're here tonight, and we recognise the lead-in time is quite short, but we're here to ask you to do it all again. And I think for every reason that our members voted yes last time, I think there's 10 times the amount of reasons to vote yes this time. The stakes are incredibly high. It is about the future of your job, the future of the industry, the future of your work-life balance, and obviously as well, the future of the services that we actually provide to the public. So, where we are at the moment is a position that they've brought on, the way the company have acted. What's unacceptable as well is any time when a company moves to executive action, you have no choice but to respond to that. So this ballot's crucial. You've got to get out there and do the same level of work that you did previously. I do want to make one point crystal clear, because I've listened to some of what Royal Mail are trying to suggest to you, and I know Terry will pick this up as well. But this union will never, ever face away from change. If we think change is in the interest of your job security going forward, if we think it's in the interest of the future of the industry, however difficult the decisions are on that, we will negotiate that and we will come back to you with the right agreement. But we've got to be clear here, what Royal Mail on the face of it are proposing at the moment is not anything like the direction and the strategy that we agreed with them only 18 or so months ago. And they can't explain in any shape or form how we've gone from where we were and all of a sudden now we're talking about the companies losing £1 million a day. The last person that told us that was Adam Crozier. He said when he joined Royal Mail that it was losing £1 million. And I remember saying to people, when he leaves, he'll say it's £1 million now a day that it's making. Lo and behold, he did. Problem was, the next CEO, Moya Green, come in and said the company was bankrupt. So I'm not saying that there aren't issues here that we'll have to tackle, and they're inviting us in, and we're all going to talk about the state of the company and all of that. But look, what their agenda is at the moment is they're abandoning letters, they're abandoning the AM period for delivery, and that in turn means that all of the opportunities that we've spoken about to grow products and services will disappear. I mean, it is absolute madness for them to be doing that. And I think what that will lead to is them abandoning the universal service obligation. And it's all about, it seems at the moment, a levelling down agenda and turning Royal Mail into a gig economy parcel courier, like you see in this competition that we face. So look, the message from us is there is no way we are going to accept that type of agenda. We're up for negotiating change. We deserve, and our members deserve, a significantly and substantially higher pay deal. But now you've got to get round to the offices again. You've got to start talking to your fellow workers, and we've got to deliver that next yes vote. What they fear more than anything in our union is the collective strength of our members. You've done it before. We know you're going to go out and do it again. And if you deliver that yes vote in the same numbers, the same turnout, then we'll deliver a change in their position. On that, you can be absolutely certain. Thanks very much.
You was on mute, Chris. Am I on mute? I don't.
Sorry, Terry. Yeah, over to you, buddy.
All right. Okay. Evening, everyone. Everything that Dave said, of course, but also I'd like to talk about. Well, I want a massive thank you, obviously, for the yes vote on pay. I say a massive thank you. I want to congratulate you because you're standing up for yourself there, and this is massively important. We had the strongest possible mandate. It was an unbelievable, 2.4% shy of 100% yes vote. And we got to do it again on change. So there's been lots of briefing about the way these two issues have merged. And I want to remind people how that came about. Actually, not wishing to correct Dave, but we actually, you voted on the Pathway to Change agreement. I think it was we got the result in February, I think it was, in 2021. So now that we can see they effectively disengaged since January this year, that agreement didn't even last a year in their eyes. And we got to be sure whatever agreement we get, that we stick to it and we get back to the principles of that agreement, because it is the right plan. It was the right plan, and they're panicking. But how our two disputes have it's a unique situation with these two disputes. It's just to remind everybody that we assumed, of course, as we came into the new year, 22, we would just continue that journey of deploying our agreement. We'd massively done it in 2021. You all did that. We had commitments to annual revisions, and we needed to refine how we did them, etc. So we had deployed. We'd honoured every bit of our agreement, and we assumed that would continue. They were having massive managerial changes. In February, we knew that the financial cost of living crisis was heading your way. And like a sensible trade union, we wanted to get in front of that and make sure you had a pay deal on the 1st of April when it was due. So at the same time, still anticipating we would be continuing our journey on the Pathway to Change. So we put our claim in. We also wrote to them about moving forward our agreement, the Pathway to Change, because there seemed to be a disengagement because we assumed managerial changes, but now I think is more significant than that. We also held a policy forum as a trade union to discuss how we would take forward the Pathway to Change agreement and set policies, a great expense to the union. So this was not a union. When they're talking about the agility of this union, we were being very agile. And they were flatlining because they effectively disengaged. We never heard from them again till April, so wasted all of those months. And when we did hear from them, it was, of course, you can't have any pay whatsoever unless you agree a load of totally unacceptable changes, which quite frankly were on the table before we got the Pathway to Change agreement, and we dealt with them. So we've dealt with them once. They were the same issues we had with Rico back. They are extremely damaging in our opinion, to this great public service, to the USO, as Dave has just said, but extremely damaging to you as well as, of course, pulling up the ladder on the next generation. Now, those changes, you've seen them because they've published them. They keep sending them out. The CEO keeps talking about them on the workplace thing, which I personally don't see, but that I know people send us stuff that is out there. So while we're in the room trying to negotiate our way through this stuff, he's out there effectively trying to negotiate with you, which is really unhelpful, but shows the degree of lack of professionalism in dealing with this very serious situation. So this week we're in talks with them after the massive pay result. Of course, everyone, there are people, why aren't we giving notice now? We said all along, once we got our mandate, we would give them a chance to have more talks. but we've also got this ballot on the change now, and I would say more getting back in line with our pathway to change agreement. So it's not about opposing change; it's about getting back in the agreed parameters we had before, and one that protects this great public service, protects you, his job security, and everything else. So we're doing those talks simultaneously. They wanted to link them. We've got two separate disputes here. So this week we're meeting them both on the change issues and separately on the pay issues, and we're giving them an opportunity on pay. But clearly, if there's no movement on pay and this is all taking too long again, we've got a mandate. So the executive will have to consider giving action. But tonight's really, I want to focus on that's things that we would normally have to deal with. This union, in my opinion, we have got the tactical ability to deal with this unusual situation and put ourselves in the strongest possible position to deal with this issue, protect you and protect our industry. But to do that, we need a massive yes vote on the change issues as well. And I think Dave's right. Pay is really important to you this year, important to everyone. We know people are hurting. We know, everyone's pocket is getting tested. And it's disgraceful that the company's not trying to help with that. But equally, that's this year on pay, but equally the future of this great public service and your future is crucial. And that goes beyond just this year. So really important high-level issues, really complex. We're in the talks. We're dealing with them. We need this second massive yes vote. And we'd like 100% this time, please. Don't want to be greedy. We want 100% yes vote. The company needs to understand that we will not put up with these changes that they're proposing, and they're going to have to negotiate either additions to our pathway to change agreement or get back in line with it and the spirit and intent of it for us to be able to take this stuff forward. Because Dave is correct. All of their proposals benchmarking against the worst types of employer and the worst type of competition that's out there. And we can never get down to that level, and we refuse to get down to that level. And in doing that, they're pursuing just parcels, and they're not giving any thought to the commitments they've made with us to promote and protect letters as best we can and protect the USO. That is in an agreement that's only just over a year old. So if we're going to make another agreement with this employer, they're going to have to do better than just trying to pull out of that agreement, every 12 months because suddenly there's a dip in their finances, as every other company is suffering at this moment in time. So, Chris, that's sort of where we are. It's massively important for tonight that we concentrate on this second ballot on change. It's hugely important. We need another massive mandate, and then the tactics about how we sort out the two issues. Well, that becomes less complicated if we've got two massive yes votes, because that will focus the intention of the employer on getting an agreement with his trade union, because they're going to have to.
Thank you, Terry. Fantastic. So to let you know, we've had 14,500 people tune in so far across the free channels, which is brilliant. Let's make it more. Let's make it 15, 16, 20,000. So tag your colleagues in the comments, share the links, get it in the WhatsApp groups, get it going and get as many people as possible online. You can see the flood of you saying that you're voting yes as well. Something I want to try tonight is to get a feel for the whole of the UK. So I want to try something. I want you to do two things in the comment. One, say where you're from, and second, say yes. So if it was me, I would say Plymouth is voting yes, for example. So wherever your office is, and then say is voting yes. And let's get as many of those in the comments as we possibly can. Dave, I want to come to you. Quite a few members, branches are out there. They, as you and both Terry has said, they've worked really hard. There's a lot going on. Just how important is it in the next couple of days, right through the ballot period, we keep the meetings going, and we keep getting, and we get this over the line, and we delivered a huge turnout. And what would your message to our branches be? And I'm sure that would include a thanks to what they've done so far, just how important it is that we put the foot down, and particularly in the coming week or so.
Yeah, I mean, look, you guys know what you need to do. You've done it on so many occasions, and that last effort that you put in was a record-breaking effort in terms of ballots for the amount of members that we have compared to some of the ballots that take place in other unions. So you know what you need to do. You just need to now get out and do it. And I think a central message I would say is just simply to say to our members that those, and you're all listening tonight, There's so many of you on here. You got that job as well, all of you, to speak to your fellow work colleagues. As I said in the opening introduction, when you thought about voting yes last time, you would have had a number of reasons to do that. Rest assured, there's about 10 times the amount of reasons this time to vote yes. And there's no substitute for what you guys do. You give us the strength. You give us the ability to negotiate, to make the company change their position. We're so much more confident because we know we've got those structures out there, which is unique to our union in many ways, with all of our local reps who do a great job, and all of our members who are on here tonight. Through this level of engagement, you're going to go back and speak to another 4 or 5 members who weren't on here tonight, and we know you know what to do. You just got to get out there now and do it.
Thanks, Dave. Fantastic. Terry, one of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight, and lots of members are asking loads of questions about, what's this all about? But just really quoting, I sat down with Mark Boach, I think it was a couple of days ago, to talk through the level of change in deliveries. And when you listed it out, as you started to, it was phenomenal. We're talking sort of later starts, which would impact every single function and business unit: sick pay, ill health pay, new entrance terms, Sundays, annualized hours, short notice of shift change, the introduction of total flexibility. I mean, this is like, I think both you and Dave have really encapsulated well that pay means more this year than perhaps it has meant for a long, long time because of the cost of living crisis. But this, in many ways, seems to be the most important ballot of the two, because this is about, people's lives and their standard of living and their decency and their retirement and their sick pay and, time away from the work. This is really battle lines drawn from the company, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, if we've truly got empathy with our people, they, for different reasons, they're both massively important, both of these ballots. It's crucial that our people keep pace with inflation. There's so many examples now being given on the telly, and a lot of sympathy with decent working people, because quite clearly what's being offered or what's been imposed on us is a pay cut. It's a pay cut, and the company should be doing far better by its greatest asset, which is its employees. I think the problem is the thinking with Royal Mail, if you link the two, is that they've got into a position where the workforce, their greatest asset, is actually to them the one they least care about. Probably second to that is the service, the public service, the USO, this wonderful institution has been around for over 500 years. Is still relevant, proved how relevant it was during the pandemic. That's probably, so it's our members least, then it's that they don't care about. All they're interested in, it would seem to be, is generating cash that goes out of this industry and goes straight into shareholders' pockets. So it's interesting, did some research the other day, Chris, that since privatisation, which I think started in 2014, over £2 billion has gone out to shareholders. £2 billion that could have been reinvested in our infrastructure. And we know there's parts of this business desperately need investment, not just these super hubs they're badging them as. Well, time will tell whether they're really super hubs or not, but not just in them shiny building, all our delivery offices and everything else. Everybody knows there's been a distinct lack of investment and investment in new products and services. That money, that £2 billion could have been spent on that in Royal Mail, and that's just gone straight out the window into shareholders' pockets. And that's all they're worried about here, That's all it's about. The quickest route it is a dash for cash. These proposals, without doubt, are a dash for cash. It's not brains, it's not intelligence, it's not wonderful strategic thinking. It's the cheapest possible pipeline, the cheapest possible model. Start bringing in cheaper employees. Set up a parcel company that doesn't utilise our sweet spot, which is delivering as much as possible on core, moving away from that, knowing that that's going to make that inefficient in comparison with competitors, shrinking our pipeline, which will also make us inefficient in terms of the use of the technology, and as I say, maximising our sweet spot. These are not great strategic thinkers. This is almost like It's stripping this great public service for as much money as they possibly get out of it. And they can talk as much as they like, and I don't care how much they want to talk to the chairman, the CEO, about how this is in the interest of the business when we're deserting the AM period, because that's what they're proposing. They're not. It's not true what they're saying. This is not in the interest of our members. It's not in the interest of this great public service. Both of these issues on pay, it's because they don't value you. You're at the bottom of the chain as far as they're concerned. When they've given millions to shareholders, even this very year, you're at the bottom of the chain. And the public service is at the bottom of the chain when it comes to the operational changes they're advocating. They're trying to get as much money. It's the typical attack that privatisation always brings. It's the very reason we constructed our agreements, including our legally binding agreement. All of them are at risk and are threatened or broken by these proposals that we're dealing with. Both of these issues are massively important. One's already in the bag in terms of your support, the mandate you've given us. And it's, listen, we're not asking it's like you're doing us a favour. You need to stand up for yourselves. And if you want to stand up for yourselves, you vote yes. You give us the mandate, and then we give you the strongest possible leadership and negotiations we can muster to protect you and protect you going forward. It's crucial. It's crucial that you talk to your friends if you're not listening to this. It's crucial that you encourage everybody to vote on these issues. You are voting for your future on these changes. And if you want a decent one, then you've got to vote yes and give us the strongest possible mandate. 100%, please.
Thank you, Terry. Dave, just ask you to unmute yourself, buddy. There you are. Perfect. So we've brilliant to see you, by the way, as Terry was speaking there, the flood of people. I don't think there's a branch in the country that hasn't had at least one office come up to say that they're all voting yes. That's brilliant. So thank you for that. I'll keep getting them up as the session goes on. Dave, was going to do this question later in the session, but loads of people have asked it. So I thought we're going to come to you on it, which is the Labour Party. And quite a few people, have picked up on the dismissal of Sam Tarry MP from the front bench today for attending an RMT picket line, and people questioning. Obviously, the day before there was a nonsense around Starmer saying that Royal Mail was no longer on the table to be renationalised. It's like people basically saying, have we got Labour's support in this dispute, and if not, what are we going to do about it, Dave?
Right, so I don't think we got the support of the Labour leadership in this dispute. I think that's fairly clear. I don't think any trade union that's in dispute at the moment has got the support of the Labour leadership. Their actions, Keir Starmer's actions in this, is a disgrace. And, it's not acceptable. What's even worse than that, and it's difficult to sort of talk about these things, when you have conversations with people. But what I would say is this, is that the other thing that's become clear to me is that the Labour Party leadership, Keir Starmer, speaks one thing when he's talking to a camera and when he's in fear of whatever questions they might put to him publicly, and then says something different and their teams when they're talking to people like myself and others. That can't carry on. I mean, you don't win elections with a lack of integrity in that way. So it's not on. What we'll do about it, we'll deal with it. But at the end of the day, the focus at the moment, and it's a good opportunity to say to our members, what the CWU is doing, as well as at the moment we've got every single part of our union in a dispute on pay, and some of that obviously changed now as well in Royal Mail. But we're also the union that's leading the call amongst all unions for trade unions to come together. I actually think with the political landscape looking so bleak, you've got the two Tory party prospective leaders arguing with each other about how bad the other ones mismanage the economy. If Labour can't make headway in that situation, then they need to leave the field, I think, completely. But what we're doing is we're focusing on trade union solidarity, trade union strength, and our campaign for a New Deal for workers is going to run alongside all of these disputes. I actually think this is not just a summer of discontent, as people have in the media call it. I think it's a lot bigger than that. I think working people up and down the UK have had enough. And it's important that trade unions lead that debate as well, and we will.
Thank you, Dave. Terry, one of the questions that's been prolifically asked, and I think this is obviously a positive because it shows the amount of support we've got out there, is why haven't we already served notice on Royal Mail to take strike action on pay, and when are we going to do that? Over to you.
Well, I've already said how these things have cut across each other, and who knows? There could be something else coming out of left side, and we'd have to ballot on that. These are unusual times, but if you just take pay alone, as we said at our briefing, and as we said to the media on the day of that magnificent historical yes vote, it's a massive mandate, but that's not a reason to not still behave tactically. We're in the strongest possible position. We would always, when we get a yes vote, give the employer the opportunity to put the situation right, offer them talks with them in the knowledge that we've got that backing, and then we can give notice. And that's what we're doing this week. So, if these talks that we've got scheduled for this week, the early part of next week, if they don't start to show signs, Chris, that they're taking any notice whatsoever of that ballot result and the people who work for them, then obviously the executive will have to give consideration to giving notice. But we're not actually doing anything that we would never have done before. You get the result, and then you offer them the chance of meetings. If they turn it away, and if they need, we have to take that extra push and put the pressure on and take strike action, then we do. But like we've previously done when we've had massive yes votes and even the 4 pillars agreement, if we can get the right deal for our members and they don't have to lose a penny in strike action, then that's good trade unionism. If the pressure and the support and the strength you've given us enables us to get the right deal, then why would we take people out on strike, affect the people we serve, but also lose money for our members? It's a big decision for the trade union. Potentially, across these 2 issues on pay and change, this has got all the hallmarks, if the company don't change its position, of a marathon, not a sprint. And you've got to be very tactical about that. And we've also got to be considerate about our people and where they are and the current sort of cost of living crisis, et cetera, et cetera. But, at the moment, we've got the strongest narrative. We've got the narrative. I think we've got the knowledge, because most of these new managers are totally inexperienced with the operation and everything else, the people that they're dealing with. There's only a couple in the room with any experience. So I think we can dismantle their proposals. But on everything we're talking about, we're also, as I say, we're going in another room next door and we're saying, you need to improve that pay offer. And if they don't, we will have to respond, and we will. We won't hesitate. But, there's a difference between, well, no, I better not say. There's, you've got to have a bit of tactical nous about it. We're in a strong position, and you don't want to abuse that position. We don't want to do that. We want to use that to get the right agreement. But if we're not getting anywhere with that, then of course we have to use the ultimate weapon, and we won't hesitate.
Thank you, Terry. Brilliant. Dave, I'm going to come to you now, if I can, buddy. And there's lots of questions coming in around Royal Mail's communications. Someone's just put in the comments that they've had a 7-page letter from the CEO to their home today. So I imagine that's quite some tale. Maybe it was a copy and paste of all of his inane workplace postings. You never know. But Dave, how important is it that our members are going to hear a lot of noise, and Terry might want to comment on the back of this one actually, but our members are going to hear a lot of noise about from Royal Mail, maybe some threats and lots of like doom and gloom. How important is that everyone out there holds their nerve, does their job, as Terry was pointing out there, fill out that ballot paper and strengthens the officers' hands for the negotiation?
Well, it's absolutely crucial that we see this as a long sort of game. I mean, we're in it for the long haul. We do whatever it takes, short-term action, long-term action, whatever. And I wouldn't underestimate just how the lead up to a strike puts a trade union in a very, very strong position when the workforce show, despite all of the communications that you referred to, Chris, that they still back the union. And you've got to maximise the leverage from every moment. Sometimes that gets you into a position, as we are in BT at the moment. Our members in BT will be taking strike action for the first time in, I think it's 35 years, on Friday and Monday. And I'm sure you're going to wish them solidarity on that front. But sometimes it's about building up the support and the pressure. When we say that they fear your collective strength, our collective strength, there's no doubt that they do. and it will change their position. It always does. And I think you've got to get back to that point about, whatever they say, you'll have a look at that. You'll make your mind up. But, it always boils down to one simple thing. The trade union movement is here for the members. The people who lead these companies, they're here for themselves mostly and for the shareholders. And that's what it's about. And you'll get behind us and we'll be able to explain anything that they put forward. We've got our view on that. We had an agreement. That agreement was hard fought for. Why does it keep happening? I know that people were saying that. Well, I think if you didn't have, trade unions, if you trusted people completely, you wouldn't need trade unions. But we never trust them. We never can. They come and go, senior managers. We deal with them, and we get the next agreement. And unfortunately, if you look at our record on privatisation, this union has held together stronger than any union after privatisation. And that's a credit to all of the times that you've supported us. We're back round again to that point, and we've got to deliver for your future, your job, and the future of our industry, and we will.
Thanks, Dave. Terry, I don't know if you want to comment on the back of that. Just before you do, it'd be really good. I think Dave makes a good point. I know you might want to comment on this, Terry, yourself, from your position of the action we've got in BT and Openreach on Friday and Monday. So please put some solidarity in the comments to our BT and Openreach members and we'll get them on screen. But Terry, on the need, for a little bit of that if you want to, but on the need also to just hold our nerve in the coming weeks.
Yeah, absolute solidarity and support for our members in BT. Absolute good luck to them. And, there's compelling reasons there, and the company making billions, millions of pounds, and CEOs getting millions of pounds. Very much a lot of it the same sort of arguments, but I'm sure they're going to make a difference by taking strike action. Very sad it has to come to that, because then once again it's an employer thinking the last thing they worry about is their employees. Coming back to us and a 7-page letter written by the CEO, I wish I had time to write a 7-page letter. I wish I had time to get out in the workplace as much as he does. I would love to be, rather than stuck in this hotel negotiating for weeks and probably all of next week as well. I would much rather, I'd much rather be going home tonight. Secondly, I would much rather be getting out there, meeting our members now and rallying them around and getting that yes vote. So, but I'm not in the position that he's in. I don't know what he's going to say. It's probably a 7-page letter, which is going to say it's all doomed. You're all doomed. If you follow the union, we're all going to be out of work and Royal Mail's going to disappear off the face of the earth. Well, that remains to be seen. We've had it said to us a number of times. And as Dave said, well, I know you're going to back us. I know you're going to take no notice. They have lost all credibility. The CEO's lost all credibility, all trust, his trust agenda. The bonuses that were paid. Our managers have got to get 70% in the trust agenda. They get 68, but we're still paying them all out. They've done a deal with Unite, which allegedly puts managers back in when they let a load of them go on EVR, on redundancy terms. And now they're bringing managers back in. They're all over the place, but they couldn't afford, could they? They couldn't afford to have their managers out on strike as well. So they go and do. It's just slippery stuff that we've seen time and time again. And it's their failure. It's their lack of emotional intelligence, to not understand why you would react the way you're reacting, including, the insult of a 2% imposed, here you go, have a sugar lump. We know you're struggling, have a little 2%, which was more insulting than their first position. But their failure to understand how working people react to that sort of stuff, but also the fact that their credibility has been totally shot, and yet they still think they can write to you and you're going to listen to them and you're going to be convinced by their arguments. Don't be, because they're never right. It's a narrative to serve generating more millions to give to shareholders, nothing else. And it really is. It's annoying that someone like the government, I mean, we should never have been privatised. If anything, we should have been a not-for-profit. I've already said about the £2 billion that have gone out. But the citizens of the United Kingdom are going to lose an excellent postal service, an excellent public service, which is trying to operate commercially as well and can be hugely successful. We absolutely believe, all companies are struggling at the moment. Of course they are, and it's effectively a recession. They're using it as an excuse to push through changes that have never been acceptable to us. And as I say, they're all about generating more money to give to shareholders, which will wreck this great public service. Do you know what I love is all the wrongs that are going on in the world, and it is absolutely wrong that we've had an agreement they started reneging on it in less than a year, and we have to go again. But the fact that we're here and we do go again, that's the most important thing. And I'm constantly saying, all the disputes, the rows, the agreements we've had to make, both going into privatisation and since, can you imagine what would have been the state of Royal Mail, this tremendous public service, if this union hadn't been there, and if you hadn't backed your trade union? I believe we've earned your respect. I believe we've earned your trust. We don't come on here. We don't lie to you. We're not economic with the truth. We don't try to deceive you. What we're telling you is what we see and what we know from our knowledge of years of working in this industry. I've been a rep in over 30 years in this industry. So has Dave, probably longer Dave than me. We know the difference. We know what's being said. We know how the operation works. We know what will destroy us. That's how we keep protecting you from it. So with the 7 pages, the other thing about writing 7 pages is, and we know this, and from a comms perspective, Chris, most people won't go past the first page. So another waste of time, another waste of money in producing that 7-page letter, because you are going to support us massively. What we mustn't be is complacent. You've got to make sure that not just you, but the people you work next to, the people you work with, you've got to talk to each other. You've got to make sure you're all voting. Send the strongest possible message again. Because as I said with the pay one, it puts them in the court of public opinion. The media will want to get hold of it. Look at this union now sitting there with 2 disputes, 2 massive yes votes. And Dave's right, the pressure shifts on them. Because don't forget, shareholders will be on their case and all saying, well, how are you going to deliver all the things you've said if you've lost your workforce completely? They will have to go. And I think it's only a matter of time before the CEO does go.
Thank you, Terry. That's fantastic, buddy. So linking on what Terry said there, and I think we've all covered this, is the importance of, alongside you voting, you convincing other people to vote, because there's so many of you. I've been online tonight, almost 21,000 across the 3 channels. If each of you speaks to 4 people, we've hit the 100,000 people to vote. So please get in there tomorrow and get the message out. And if you are prepared to do that, simply put "I am the union" in the comments tomorrow and show that you're ready to go into work tomorrow and you're ready to convince your colleagues to vote yes alongside you. So "I am the union" in the comments. Dave, one of the things that, having done so many of these sessions with you, Terry, and the other union leaders, is I learn to be able to mix up what I'm doing while I'm sort of chairing this session. And I was looking at my phone just now, and someone commented and said, "Will you and Terry be losing effing money during the strike? You're undermining us. How much are you on? Blah, blah, blah." So sorry, Mark. I did manage to get onto my phone and check out and find out that you're actually a Royal Mail manager. So, it just shows you didn't the type of people we got out there. But on that point, Dave, the obvious answer is yes, of course, both yourself, Terry, and all the union leaders will be losing their money. But there is a serious point here about our relationship with Unite the Union in this row, which quite a few members are commenting on. And obviously they whatever reason, done a deal. I think Terry articulated earlier on, don't know the ins and outs of that. But we have a new general secretary for Unite. Will we be engaging with them about the potential to, stop them undermining our dispute as they've done in previous years? Because a lot of members are asking that question.
Yeah, definitely. That's a conversation that we'll have with Sharon Graham, the new General Secretary of Unite. As I understand it, I think the deal has come about as a result of obviously some negotiations they've been having, but I think there was also court issues linked into that. I'm not sure the exact content of the deal. I've seen bits and pieces of it, but one thing's for certain, if you stand on the agenda that Sharon has stood on, and I admire her for that, I'm fairly certain that when we have that conversation, she'll put those messages out to the Royal Mail managers. Also, on that last point, I did a BT live. Was it last night, Chris? You lose track of the days here, or Monday night?
Monday, mate.
And I actually said before the question came in, we don't ask our members to take strike action. and those of us who are employed by the union, like myself and Terry, we will put forward an equivalent of whatever our day's pay is into the hardship fund of the union. That's what we've done in previous disputes. That's what we're going to do, and the pledge that we make, because that's important. You know, we can't ask you to make sacrifices if we're not prepared to make the same sacrifices on a pro rata basis. So we will do that. I do want to touch on this thing because that came up the other night on BT stuff, particularly with the reality of the cost of living crisis at the moment. You know, if we do get to a point where there's strike action, and that may come fairly soon in Royal Mail, then, you know, hardship funds are what we can help people with. But we're a union where we're balloting. Some of these disputes you hear about, RMT is a bit different, obviously, around about 60,000 members there. But we got 115,000 members here. We've got other disputes that are taking place, 40,000 odd members in BT. We're likely to have potentially around 160,000 of our members out on strike. And the union can't pay strike money like I know some unions do when they've got a dispute involving maybe 100 people. We can't afford to do that. We'd be bankrupt. But look, I know you understand all of that. I wanted to get that point in before the question comes up, as we did the other night.
Thanks, Dave. Spot on. Terry, one of the questions that's coming from the members is asking if either yourself, Dave, or anyone else has been involved in negotiations. I think this member must have missed the start and the fact that you're in negotiations. But people are asking sort of what the content and the vibe and the feeling of the negotiations, positive, negative. You know, yourself, Dave, what's been going on? Other officers?
Well, it's really difficult at the moment because we've come into them this week, and of course, there's not enough on pay, and we've got our massive yes vote. So we're saying we want to meet on pay. We want you to improve the offer, give them an opportunity to do that. They'll be saying we ain't got no money unless we make these changes, which they were saying actually before they gave the 2%. So they did sort of break that principle. In another room, we're then going in and we're talking about the change issues that we're now balloting on, and they've got to be dealt with. And we're breaking them down, and we are breaking them down. And some of them are red lines. Some of them we're saying there's no chance whatsoever. Others to do with things like the pipeline. To be honest with you, we're using our agreement, the pathway to change agreement, and they just so obviously should have stuck with that. Why they disengaged for 4 months? No one's been able to answer that question. So we're trying to, in line with the spirit of that agreement, which is really important, we keep in line with that, but also the policies we established at our policy forum in March. So I would argue we were far better prepared to deal with these proposals. What I would also say to you is in the early exchanges, so it is a bit of shadow boxing, you know, and you're gradually getting closer to the nitty gritty. In a lot of these proposals, they seem to have been thought through by the business on the basis of how much money they'll generate. Vast majority of which was, I've already said, would just go straight out of the industry to shareholders. But what they've really not, and this is a consequence of the inexperienced management they got around them at the moment, it would appear to me that their proposals are not very well thought through in terms of how that works as an operation, and actually works against them in terms of our competitiveness and also our efficiency and how we exploit our sweet spots, i.e. delivering with the USO, etc., parcels. So, we're exposing that. And I think we're in a very strong position on others of the proposals, like pulling up the ladder on the next generation. We've said there's absolutely no chance this union is going to agree to that, where there's been examples of that in the past, even through legacy payments. It's not the remedy for a good culture. It's not a remedy for a good workplace morale when you've got people doing exactly the same job standing next to each other on different money. It don't work. Again, it's ill-conceived and it's very short-termism. Long-term, that is very damaging to a workforce and your ability to motivate a workforce. So we're at that point, Chris, in these negotiations. And I think on the change issues, it's going to change dramatically when they see the strength of feeling from our members on those issues. Listen, they can't do this without us. They can't do it without you. We're too powerful. We're too big. I think what we've got to watch out for out there, and I messaged Chris, I'd like to put out to all our reps and members, if you spot this, is that they are likely to try and start pushing stuff locally that they want to do on productivity or whatever. And I would encourage everyone, you've got to deal with them through the IR framework. We are in dispute with this employer. We are not in dispute and then cooperating with them at the same time. That's not where we are. And anything that comes your way, stick to the IR framework, take them through that process. But clearly, they got to understand they can't go doing that. They can't have us locked in a room and start picking on our members or our reps or our workplaces individually. And we'll have to watch that very carefully. But if they want to deal with this properly, they'll deal with it in this room here. They'll deal with it as quickly as possible so that we don't have that, that damage that can be done out in the field. But if they don't move, like I say, if they don't move on pay, then we got a mandate, and it's totally within our rights to give notice of strike action. They'd have 2 weeks' notice so they can keep talking, but they're going to have to start moving on some of this stuff because we are not going to have it.
Thank you, Dave. Brilliant. Dave, quite a few people are asking around, follows on quite well from what Terry is saying, really about, what we'll have to do about it if it comes to it in terms of the discussions. But quite a few people are saying, like, are we worried as a union that, even if we take action, they're simply going to stand there and they're going to try and starve us out? We've seen, obviously, we saw today one of the universities, the UCU, had deducted 100% pay for the month. We're seeing some really aggressive anti-union tactics from the government, aren't we, and other employers. Just how confident are you that, this union, by whatever means, can move the employer?
Well, I think that at the moment, you've seen what's going on around us. There's a wave of disputes across the UK at the moment. The government today has clearly called on the next set of legislation, which is basically going to ban strikes. And I think people, will understand that we've got to fight back on that on all fronts, and we will. With this company, I think there's a bit of difference here about what level of change you can impose. So, for example, in a lot of other things, sometimes you get to a point where they impose the change. We're talking here of offices and a network right across the UK. In every town, city, village, rural area, wherever you want to go, there's a postal worker. And their ability to impose change on that level does not exist. So we're in a strong position from that. They will attempt one or two things. That's what's caused the ballot, is that, they've decided to move on and impose some of their positions. And that was carefully thought out because that appeared in the paper. They've done interviews with people, the chair of the company, the chairman of the company, he seemed to take a lead in that. And obviously in terms of what we are prepared to do, we'll do whatever it takes. We will change their position because I don't think their position adds up. I mean, I was saying to Terry earlier, I had a conversation with a chair recently, and I think from what I heard there, whether the lack of detail doesn't exist up at the top of that company, almost all the things we're saying about levelling down, they're almost saying, well, no, we don't want to do that. Well, we're not going to allow them to do it. It's the message that we deliver. And I think that we can, with our collective strength, we will change their position on a lot of this because it don't add up. It's not about the success of a business. It tells me that there's something else sitting behind the reasons that they're doing this. And normally that's shareholder pressure. They must be thinking, because they know we're going to deliver a massive yes vote, they must be thinking that they ain't got any other choice. And I think that is not based on necessarily what was said in their shareholder AGM to the public and the messages they put out. I think that's more about what they might fear from some of the actions of shareholders if they don't try and move some of these things on in that way. And, whatever happens there will happen. We'll deal with it.
Thank you, Dave. Brilliant. Just getting right to the end of the session now, because I think what is clear, and I mean, I know you two don't get to see this side of it, but the support is so positive and so up for it. It's fantastic. So thank you, and obviously lots of thanks for both of you two as well. Terry, just a couple of one more question for each of you, and I want to give you each a chance to sum up. I mean, you've both talked about a little bit about the negotiations and the shape of them, and I wondered, as now the ballot papers start to land, and we get closer and closer to potentially taking strike action, you're back in the room with the company, in the coming days, what would your message be to Royal Mail, like if you had one for them right now, on like the seriousness of this situation and the opportunity to avoid national strike action, which would be the first time since 2009?
What would I say to them? Well, exactly what I am saying to them. You get back in line with our agreement. You get back. You don't panic. You don't blink. You stick with the plan. We've got a plan for this business. We want to grow Royal Mail. We want to build new products and services. We had commitments from them to do that both locally, regionally, nationally. They've done nothing with it. There's no ambition here. There's no ambition. Their only ambition is to strip it bare, because if it's true, if that's the case, what Dave was saying is because they've frightened the shareholders, then that's what they're doing. They're operating out of fear. So they're not brave people. And if they haven't got the courage of their convictions and the courages of the agreements they made, don't forget, Pathway Change agreement was the chairman. He stepped in. So there's questions about him being an independent chair, but he doesn't seem to be doing anything, to back the agreement that he made with us, that he believed was the right agreement. Signed a part of signing it. So in less than a year, he hasn't got the courage of his convictions. None of them. Simon Thompson was talking everything up. If you go back to November 2021, they were saying how brilliantly we deployed the agreement, deployed automation, how well it was going, etc., etc. So their position doesn't make sense. It's a panic. It's a knee-jerk. Dave's saying there's got to be some sort of reason behind it. No one has told us why they effectively disengaged in January. When you look back, that's what it was. We are the people of honour here. We've honoured the agreement we made with these people, and we've got the courage of our convictions. Don't forget, in deploying the first year of that agreement, a lot of our members and reps were put out about that, and I understand it. They had lots of pressure from the pandemic, having to do revisions, but it was necessary to start us moving this industry forward and reinventing, Royal Mail, protecting this great public service and all the jobs and the people in it. We had to do it. That's part of the tough side of this job, when you have to do that stuff for the right reasons. We're still committed to that agreement. It's them that have walked away from it. And people need to have a feel, Chris, for what some of these proposals are. So today we've been speaking about the new entrants. They're talking. Don't forget, there's a commitment to the 35-hour week. We've been employing full-time people on 35 hours since 2018, since the Four Pillars Agreement. And the plan was always to get our existing members down to them 35 hours. And we've been doing that. But why that's so important? Because it also connects to inventive duty patterns, where you can do 3 or 4 day weeks, where you can, there can be jobs that rotate around the weekend if people choose to volunteer for them. It's very important to our operation. It's important for the recovery for postal workers, because the job's getting harder and harder. And their proposals, they're talking about longer delivery spans. These things have to add up, and you have to have the arrangements to protect the people, but also make it work. That agreement gives us that. They are forgetting all of those things. So today, new entrants, they're talking about new entrants coming in on 13% less money, on a 40-hour week now, going back to a 48-hour week over 7 days. They're talking about, that's what they're talking about. No allowances for Sunday. They're talking about our existing delivery duties going back further, between an hour and 3 hours. And it's probably going to be more like 2 hours, 3 hours if you accept their plan. That is us. Most people are going out now on delivery 10 o'clock in the morning. That is deserting the AM period. That's pushing us into the afternoon. Then they're going to say they want flexi working, where you have shorts and longs. What are we going to have to make up the duties on flexi? What, people are going to be out delivering at 8 o'clock at night? We're going to have our members walking around doing deliveries on housing estates, in city centres at 6 and 7 o'clock in the evening, in the winter. Can you imagine it? In the dark, when it's not safe. They're just not thought through these proposals. And neither does that help you promote letters or try and, stall the decline in letters and build other products and services around it. It's a 24/7 offering that we should be happening. That's where people like Amazon are going. No one is deserting the aim period, only this mob. And it's because they got no other ideas. It's the old ideas of a few years ago, the Rico back. They've just blown the dust off them, and they've done that so that they can try and satisfy shareholders. No, we've really got a pen. You'll have some more money next year. Not that you need to be patient, because we are reinventing this company, and we've also got to get through this period, which is like a recession, which lots of other companies are struggling with as well. And we want to reward our greatest asset, our workforce, because they're going to be the ones who deliver it. They've backed away. They've bottled it. And I think they should resign. I think the CEO and the chairman should go, because they haven't got the courage or the conviction of the agreement they made with us. And we're still prepared to see that through.
Thank you, Terry. Fantastic. And we're just getting a lot of support from our members. Dave, I wanted if you had an opportunity to deliver a final message to our members on tonight's session.
Yeah, I think the three things that the company needs to do to avoid us serving notice on strike action. One of them is to deliver a substantially improved pay offer. I think they can afford that. I think they know that. Stop messing about on that and get it out on the table. Secondly, drop all of the stuff that's linked to levelling down the service, the terms and conditions of our members, because we ain't going to agree that. And get back to the third thing, the agreement that we made that set out a very clear direction on the future of the company and the strategy that we should be jointly pursuing. We're ready to do that. And if they want to do that, they've got to move fairly soon now. So let's see what happens. And I'm sure that, when it comes down to it, tonight is really about saying to our members, the union has your best interests at heart. We're a great trade union. We've got great members who show a lot of loyalty. We know you're facing lots of challenges at the moment, and we'll think about every move that we have to make to maximise the pressure that we put on this company. All we need you to do now, and you know what that is deliver the biggest ever yes vote that we've ever got on the biggest ever turnout, and we'll do the rest. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Dave. Fantastic. Terry, a final message from you to our members.
Yeah, I second everything that Dave just said, so I don't need to build on that. I think we are a trade union. So many unions are accused of selling their members down the river. Sometimes you say to us when we get agreements, you're not too happy with stuff. People don't like change. We understand that. But this union has never done that. And to be in the position that we're in today, to once again defend ourselves when we've been privatised since 2014, is a tremendous achievement that this union's kept everyone together. But we only keep doing it if we keep standing together, if we stick together. And we keep making agreements and we keep holding their feet to the fire. It's sad that it has to be like that, but I think it's always going to be like that, because there's always going to be this pressure for more and more, the greed that we've got, in the world at the moment, in the world of work and everywhere else. We are just as much affected by it, of all these other people that are taking industrial action, including our members in BT and the post office. Don't forget the post office members that are going through the ringer as well. So just give us your support. If you trust us, and I believe you do, I think we've earned your trust. I think we've earned your respect. We don't mess about. We will stand up. We've got the courage to see this through and have this battle, whatever is required. But if there's an agreement that emerges, listen, we're not going to take strike action for the sake of it. But if we have to, we will use that weapon. We won't hesitate. We've done it for years at all levels of the union, both Dave and I. There's no question about that. You need to get behind us now. You need to take this very, very seriously. This is in 2018, we go back, we said we're in the fight of our lives. We said that leading up to the pathway to change agreement, and we're back in that place again. This is the fight of your life. This is the fight for a decent job. It's also a fight to protect this wonderful public service. And history will recall we do it again. I know you're going to get behind us. You're brilliant. The meetings today, the gate meetings, all that sort of stuff. All these other disputes going on, you don't see nothing like it, do you? You really are brilliant. And as I said today on a short video, it's an honour to represent you. Give us your vote. I know you're going to. But my only ask, I've already said, is 100% yes, please.
Thanks, Terry. Fantastic. That's the target, isn't it? So, firstly, to say thank you to both Terry and Dave. I think they've done a fantastic job, and that's reflected in the comments. More important than even Terry and Dave, though, are all of you. So, thank you to everyone who's tuned in and contributed to the session. It's been a really, really good one and some fantastic feedback. You know what we got to do, everyone. We've got to get out there and we've got to smash this ballot, and we've got to show Raw Mail that there's only one workplace that counts, and that's the one that you are in every single day. And here's a good opportunity for you. Get that ballot back and return the CEO to sender. Night, everyone.
Solidarity, everyone.